This might not be related to deep links, but I want us to start with exfiltrating a user credentials when they log in. As we've already seen, we can force the user to log out and we wait for them to log in and harvest the credentials. So the first step we are going to do is log out. We are just going to emulate an adversary, forces the user to log out, and then overwrites the login URL, and then wait for the user to log in and harvest credentials. So let's do just that. Start ngrok. Let's start ngrok. HTTP. Okay. Copy this link. Then log out from the application. Then let's overwrite the login URL. Just paste the ngrok link here. Enter. Okay. We are going to monitor on the ngrok as we log in. Okay. So let's log in. Let me use pem at pem7.com. Okay. Then welcome. Okay. As at the moment you can see we don't have any request, but when we click I expect to get a post request. So let's log in, and as you can see we have a post request here. So for us to check our logs, the server logs, we have to go to this our local interface, check the logs there, and we expect to find the credentials. Okay, so let's just do that. It's even already there. So as you can see, we have only one request that we made, which is 2 minutes ago, and you can see it was a post request, and we have the credentials here. We have the email and we have the password. So let's go back again to JIDX GUI and see what's happening there. If we check on WebView path, we can see that there are some conditions. The query parameter URL is taken from the URI. The host name is extracted from the query parameter URI. And if the host name ends with example.com, then an intent is created for WebView activity with the URL as extras, and then the WebView activity is started. Okay, so here the only validation on the URL that is passed here as an extra to the WebView activity is the hostname verification. If it is only the host that is being validated, for example example.com, then we can actually be able to bypass this. If they are not validating the scheme, what prevents us from using file scheme, and then we can access whatever we have from here. Okay, so we are going to see how we can bypass this one. Another one is also related to a host that ends with example.com. This also means as long as the host name ends with example.com, then we can be able to load that URL using this deep link. So in this case, for example, attacker, then example.com. Yeah, any URL that we have control in can be able to bypass these conditions. If you are to load an arbitrary URL in the WebView, then the host name of the URL must end with example.com. So an attacker can just register any domain that ends with example.com, for example evil.com, and specify the URL in the URL extras. So let's try to exploit these two findings. We are going to use ADB. So let's just do that. We can launch an arbitrary web view or site inside this deep link as long as it ends with example.com. So let's say we have example.com here. Example.com, okay? Let's use this one and see what happens. So you can see there is this domain and as it says, let's confirm that we are inside, you can see you are inside vulnerable, oversecured vulnerable Android app. And this is a web view that we are exploiting here. It's behaving basically like a browser inside an application. Let's try something else that doesn't end with example.com. So let's use something like gibberish like this one and see what will happen. So let's close this one. We can close it and let's start it again. As you can see, nothing is going to happen. So the web view is not going to be invoked because it's not ending with example.com. But what if we give it anything to do with attacker.com? Okay. Sorry, think again a wrong one. Didn't invoke the web view, but this time because it is correct. And of course, because attacker-example.com doesn't exist, but it opens, you can see it is still opening inside of a secured vulnerable Android app. So let's embark on a login path here. And from the Android manifest file, we have login activity. So we can start it here from here. And this is the code. So onCreate function is called when the activity is created, okay? The onCreate function is called when the activity is started. In this case, onCreate is called when the login activity is invoked. Okay. So inside this function, checks are done to see whether the user is logged in. If the user is logged in, then the onLogin finished function is invoked or is called. Okay. So it seems the logic to determine the status of logged in user is implemented in the login utils. Okay. Let's check on login finished function. On login finished function, it seems to be checking if there is an intent passed in to the login activity for the key redirect intent. Okay. And if the intent passed by intent redirect key, which is redirect intent, is not empty, then the login function starts an activity with respect to the intent by calling this function, this activity. Okay. Otherwise, it should start the main activity and it finishes there. Okay. So if we pass an extra to this login activity as an extra intent, is it able for us to use this activity to access any protected components inside the application? From here, you can see this web view is not exported. Okay. What if we pass an intent from this login activity and use it to access this protected activity, which is not exported? Okay. So let's try to do that. In this case, we are going to use an application to access this. So let's just do that. We want to use the intent redirect this as extra. Now, I want you to understand what an extra is. Okay. An extra is a data. For example, if you want to pass data from an intent from one activity to the other, or from one component to the next component, so you use extras to carry that data that intent data to the next component. So that's why extras are used. In this case, we want to use an application into access law. So let's just demonstrate what is happening from an application. That's when you can understand clearly. So we want to access this web view that is not exported using this login activity. Okay, so we are going to pass the intent redirect through this activity to open the web view activity. I hope you get the logic. So let's just do that. So this is an application that I've tried to code, to do some coding. Of course, it is not perfect because I'm not an Android programmer, but it is just going to get the work done for you. And in this case, I just want to call this login redirect here, but the login redirect itself is here. As you can see, I have created two intents here. We have the first intent, which is for the protected activity intent, and we have a package name or oversecured, and then the activity is the protected activity, that is the web view activity that's protected, and the action is of course a web view, and then we are going to pass an extra, that is we are going to put an extra a URL because this is a web view and you want to pass a URL. You can put whatever URL you want to put it here, but for me I've put google.com for easy of demonstration purposes. And I also have a second intent, which is the class that we are going to use, the login activity class that we are going to use to access this intent. So we are going to pass this intent to this login activity intent as an extra. So we are going to use the login activity, which is an inside component inside the application, to access the web view activity that cannot be accessed from the outside. So by doing so, it's like we are actually accessing this web view from outside the application. Okay, so it's going to open this google.com, and depending on the security posture of this application and so forth, it might actually lead to XSS. I have not installed the evil application. Let's just run it and see what happens. So the application is installed on the emulator. So let's try to open this evil app and see what happens. Fingers crossed. Let's see. Hopefully it opens a bit slow. Perfect. You can see we've successfully opened Google inside this application. So this is basically some of the most common vulnerabilities that are associated with extras being passed to. When you see anything that is being passed as an extra, try to be creative and find a way on which sensitive component activity or whichever that is, you can be able to use it to access the something else. I want you to, if you're watching this and you want to try this out, I want you to try this one out with ngrok. I want you to host an XSS payload inside the HTML page, and I want you to point it to this the value. I want you to point it to the ngrok URL / the payload XSS payload. So in this case, if let me check mine, var ww, okay, ls, then cd html ls. Yeah, I think I have mine here, simple XSS. So let me start ngrok. You can just ngrok by http port 80, yeah, that way, and copy this link address and just paste here on your code. Simp XSS, save all. So we are going to run the application again. So Actually, the payload, this is how it looks if you cut it. So it is just an XSS payload. But as you can see, it doesn't fire, so it's only ng-rock site that it displays in this page. So there is nothing much. It seems this part of the web view isn't vulnerable to XSS injection. There are so many vulnerabilities that we are gonna look at on Nova Secure application. But for deep links, that is it for now. See you around.